Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Sander and Jess Valentine.
Hey, Kate, how can people get more Seltzer Squad in their lives?
We have finally launched our Seltzer Squad Patreon, where you'll be able to get early access to episodes on Wednesdays instead of Fridays, our monthly bonus episode. And if you really love us and you're the slickest bitch around, you will also be able to see video podcast recordings.
I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want more Kate and Jess in their lives?
But in all seriousness, it really does help us move the podcast forward.
Yes. Subscribe at patreon.com/Seltzer Squad and help us keep this pod going.
Jess, are you listening to any good books?
Right now, I'm actually listening to an Audible exclusive podcast.
Ooh, I'm listening to Blackout by Sarah Hepola.
Oh, I listened to that one back in the day.
I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Audible. I love listening to Quit Lit or really any book. But did you know, Squad, that you can use our discount code to get a free month of Audible? Meaning you get a free book if you sign up.
That's right. Just go to audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad and get a free month on us. I actually just signed up myself using it.
Hi, Jess.
Hey, Kate.
Hi,
Hey,
Connie.
Hello, Queens.
Guys,
How
today
are you?
on the pod, we have Connie McMillan. She is another multipreneur. I'm just calling multipreneur. She is the author of Alcohol Fiend to Sobriety Queen. She is a sobriety coach and speaker. She has a podcast called Soul Sessions, which drops every Thursday. She has Cocktails with Chocolate, but I don't know if it's called that anymore. She has an alcohol-free beverage company and also a juice company. And probably more things that I missed. What did I miss, Connie?
You're doing well. You're doing well. Well, you are right. I do not have Cocktails with Chocolate any longer.
Okay.
I started a fast this year, and I've always wanted to change the name because I always felt like I wanted to be able to reach more of the sobriety community. But when you hear cocktails, you just disregard everything else, which is understandable. So, but I was having like some attachment issues. So I love the name so much. I had a trademark, but I was like, you're gonna have to let that name go. So I let it go, and now it is called the Sober Juice Bar.
Love it.
Nice. Also a good name, though.
Yeah, very good name. And the other exciting thing, we always thought you were in Jersey, and once real life started back up again, we wanted to do like a co-hosted event with you. And as I was doing my research, you moved.
Yes. You know, I always wanted to live in Georgia.
Yeah.
That was always my desire, but I was afraid. But the pandemic taught me, like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. So I just walked out on faith. I left my job. So I am a full-time entrepreneur, which is super scary. But very rewarding. And I love what I do. I love helping queens. I love empowering queens, letting them know that they're not pain, but they are purpose. So God is doing some great things.
I love that. Well, I wanted to kind of dig more into that before we get into your sobriety journey, because I think, in your podcast, you mentioned that choosing yourself is often something that's super challenging. And, you mentioned that a lot of your values are based in and around family. And by you choosing this move, it meant you kind of leaving some of those things. First, from moving from Brooklyn to Jersey, which I totally felt that. I'm not even from Brooklyn, but I still felt the pain moving from Brooklyn to Jersey.
Yes.
But also, I think just so many people make so many changes in sobriety. I would love it if you kind of walked through your headspace a little bit about what choosing you means.
Oh, gosh. It's a long story, I tell you, because I didn't choose me for a very long time. I struggled with alcohol, with self-esteem issues for a very long time. I was the darkest one in my family. So I always felt like the outcast, but it really was just my thoughts, just me. So, finding alcohol later on in life, first I found clothes. I was like, oh yes, I could just be the fly girl. And so that expensive very fast, and buying expensive coats and shoes and all these other things, and it didn't work. But when I found alcohol, oh my God, it was like, yes, this feeling I felt like I was awakening the dead with no exaggeration. And so I was just like, this is me. This is going to work for me. This is my friend. This is my boyfriend. This is everything. And so we just aligned with one another. And it went well so I thought, for a long time until I started attracting the wrong people. I was attracting, people that were like me, living this facade, because that's what I was doing. Broken people, married someone, stayed in that relationship for 11 years. And I would be in environments where, we would go to the movies and have alcohol with us. Like that was just like, you got the nips. Yeah. Cause we need, and it was just, my life was just getting crazier and crazier. So me transitioning into Jersey, that was the question, correct?
Yeah. And then eventually Georgia. I mean, the bigger jump later, but I feel like you moving to Jersey was probably the first step, right?
It truly was. If I stayed in Brooklyn, I would have died without a doubt, because I was just getting too crazy. My mom was on her deathbed and my sister was incarcerated. It was just so much going on. I had to get up out of there. And I was getting a divorce. So it was just like, what else could I take? Nothing else. I'd been pouring out, trying to, when my sister was incarcerated, she's the oldest. So, I wanted to be there for my mom every holiday, putting my husband at the time to the side, because I'm like, listen, my mom needs me, but I'm giving out. And after a while, there's nothing to give. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Totally.
So, my mom got sicker. I did divorce my ex-husband. My sister wound up coming home, but I still was this shell of a woman. So I said to myself, I can't live with her now that I don't live with him. I gotta get my own apartment. I remember going on Craigslist.
Are you sober at this point yet or not yet?
No.
Okay. Got it.
No, Jersey.
That's still very brave to do all of those things. Okay.
Not me. It was, don't get me too much credit, because it was not me. I've been on Craigslist looking for an apartment for Brooklyn. That was my desire. When I did that, this beautiful apartment came up, everything that I wanted. I was a child that loved sunken living rooms. Those are the living rooms you step down into. It had a garden tub. I was like, yes, this is me. And so I go see the apartment and it looks nothing like the photos.
Aww.
I mean,
oh no.
And I'm like, what type of bamboozle nonsense is this? So I'm like, what's going on? But in the back of my mind, I'm saying, you don't have a choice. You're going to have to make a decision. So I wound up giving him the deposit. It was like $800 or $850. And he promises me that this apartment's going to look exactly like the photos. I'm gambling at this point.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah, okay. 2 weeks later, I go back and the apartment looks exactly like the photos.
Wow.
Oh.
Here's the thing. So God showed me and explained to me, when you went to see the apartment the first time, that was what your life represented. It looked good on the outside as the images did, but you were a walking mess.
Whoa.
You really
Yeah.
When you go back the second time, that's where I'm going to take your life. And it was very frightening. I mean, I cried many nights. I remember I was like talking to God, like, I like my apartment, but I hate the neighborhood. Like, I hate it. And then Sandy happened like 1 month after I got there, because I moved in 2012. And I'm like, I don't know anybody, but it was the best place for me. I needed to be uprooted from my environment, that level of comfort. If I had stayed there, it just wouldn't have worked. And it was very difficult. It was, being away from my family, even though there was turmoil there, but I needed that time with God. I needed that time for him to prune me and then really just rebuild me, because I had been giving out so much. So I got sober when my mother died. My mother died January 16, 2014. And I just said to myself, if you don't make a decision now, you're never going to make it. I don't have any children. But my thought was, I know what I saw growing up. I saw my mom and her siblings drink, and I saw what that was like. And even though she was an amazing provider, but I knew what that was like. So I could carry on that same pattern for my little cousins, or I could step up frightened and be the person that just says no more. And that was what I chose to do. I said, no more. This has got to stop with me. And God has carried me thus far. And I'm just so grateful that he's doing it, because it ain't me doing it by myself.
Totally. I love that. Okay, so you're in Jersey. So you don't
Wait,
really...
what part of Jersey are you in?
At that time, I was in East Orange.
Nice.
East Orange.
Okay.
It's pretty.
So I still worked in New York. So I couldn't get too far from the city. I had to get to work. But again, I didn't know anybody. But God made it. I could walk to the train station or take the bus. So I still was accessible to my family in New York, but they wasn't coming to knock on my door for like milk and cheese. Like nobody was coming.
Oh yeah. I did the same move. I'm from New York. I was living in Brooklyn and then I moved to Jersey City about a year before Sandy. And I wasn't sober yet, but I was like, well, the one good thing, the one perk, because I was still working in New York and Brooklyn, was that like the bars close at 2 rather than 4. So that will save me 2 hours of drinking. Like, because that's how my alcoholic brain was like thinking I was being a good girl. So it's just funny to hear you say, like, if I stayed in Brooklyn, because same thing, if I would have stayed in Brooklyn at the time that I moved, like, I don't even know where I'd be. I'm back in Brooklyn now, but sober.
Side note, for those that don't know, the bars in New York close at 4 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. So
definitely. And then you got the after party. So it doesn't
that's problematic in itself.
It is.
Okay.
So that was 7 years ago. So we on our pod we call it like baby sobriety, toddler sobriety, like child sobriety. Like I had 5 years 2 days ago. So
congratulations.
Thank you. I always like talking to people that have more time than I do because I'm like, tell us the ways, tell us what to look forward to down the road. Tell us if there's any like bumps along the way. Because for me, the first year was very hard. Second year wasn't as hard, but year 3 was extremely hard for me. And year 4 was, it was pandemic year. So it was a little bit weird. It was obviously like not normal, but it was a little bit easier, I think, because I was home. So what can you pontificate on 5, 6, and 7-ish?
You know, for me, sobriety has opened up so many doors, right? I mean, I can remember when I was drunk, there were so many things I wanted to do. I would say I would do. I would be up, and I'm very transparent. So I would be up watching porn, literally saying what I was going to do. And of course, the next morning, I would do none of it, because I was exhausted, tired, and felt like a failure, like, oh, you're just a talker. But I can say that sobriety has still allowed those things to come forth. I remember saying that I'm going to speak to women around the world. I'm going to empower women. And then I had to go back on things that were poured into me. I had a professor that I remember, I was there for the A now, I was all about my grades. But I remember her saying, I was taking, there was one course in my major, and it was my last semester. I knew I had to get my GPA had to be high because I just wanted that for myself. But I remember my professor saying, you should be a public speaker. And I was like, lady, I'm just here for the A. I don't know who you're talking to. She said,
you're like, I've been public speaking in my living room to my television.
Exactly. I was like, it's my last semester. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to see you. You're not going to see me. But I appreciated her saying that because in that state, I didn't know. I took substance abuse courses in college. I didn't know. Like, at that time, I wasn't drinking. Well, I might have been dabbling, but I definitely wasn't down the road that I ended up on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying like to say that, your life is going to blossom. That's just how it is. You know what your intentions are. You know that you want to help people. You want to be able to be this vessel for God. That's what we are. We're servants. It's not about us. What we're encountering, our experiences that we're having, we're able to use those now to help other men and women, kings and queens. And that's what it's about. And that's why I'm so transparent, because I know that it's not about me. It's about letting that queen know that where you are today, girl, please, you're going to be so much better further. Even though it doesn't appear that way, you will be. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just, you're going to have an amazing life. You're going to be doing things that you couldn't have even thought you would be doing. I didn't see, a couple of people was like, you should write a book. So in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, one day, because, there's so many types of books. So you're like, what kind of book? And, is it God? Is it, am I telling my life story? So I got caught up in that. But a podcast, I was like, that's perfect, honey. I like to talk. So that will work.
Us too. Yeah. We're not great writers.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So when did you start the podcast?
I started the podcast 1 year of my mom's death anniversary. And that's why I didn't want her death anniversary to be a day of being sad. Sure. I always attribute things back to my mom. So I was like, you know what? That would be an absolute day, a day of meaning, a day of purpose. And so, I started that. So we're just over a year old, little plug.
Go plug away.
Sober Sessions podcast. I interview men and women, mostly women, but I try to get some kings on there that are just winning in sobriety. And it doesn't matter how many months, years you have in sobriety. I just want you to be able to tell your story so that someone around the world can hear it. They can say, wow, 4 months? You're doing what at 4 months? They can see themselves like, that's possible for me. Because if we don't create these platforms, people are left broken, wondering, oh, well, it's just my counselor that can succeed. No, it's not just your counselor. No, it's not just your therapist. You can succeed. And it doesn't matter how many bumps and bruises that you incurred over, along the way of your journey. You still have purpose. And it'll be those bumps and bruises that God will use just so that you can catapult and be in the place that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard to explain to someone newly sober how good your life gets, because it's like, I was telling a girlfriend, like, it's the foundation for everything else good that's happened. So while in the beginning of sobriety, you think about it a lot, you think about your sobriety all the time. Later on in your sobriety, you have to maintain it, but it's not like in the passenger seat of the car. It's like move to the back seat now, but it still has to be in the car because everything good is built upon its back. At least for me, that's in the last 5 years. Everything good that I have, I can attribute to quitting drinking.
Absolutely. There's no way I would have ever been on this path, met as many beautiful people that I've met if I had not stopped drinking. And I get it. Some people, it's frightening. It's scary. I always say, I speak to my clients and I say, alcohol is like that boyfriend, that fine, drop dead, gorgeous boyfriend, hazel eyes, curly hair. He doesn't really talk too well, but he just looks so good. Really want to bring him home to your mother, but you don't want to let him go. That's how alcohol is. It's that attachment. So, when you just finally say, you know what, I'm not tired of you. You're just not bringing any values to my life. And I need the king that God has for me. When you finally close that door, that's when new doors begin to open. Hard, but I guarantee you the good things are waiting on the other side. If I didn't leave my marriage, alcohol abuse, use, dependency, verbal abuse, all of that was in that marriage, right? And I'm not saying trying to bash my ex-husband, but it definitely was there. And I remember wanting to reconcile that relationship. I remember wanting to be there because it was 11 years. How do you detach yourself from 11 years? But when he said, I'm not interested in reconciling, I was like, oh my God. It was devastating, but it was a blessing because I can say if he had said yes, I would be dead. I would be dead because we would have continued to drink, or he would have tried to pay me back for some of the crazy things that I did. It have worked. And there would be no book. There would be no podcast. I would not be sober. All these things would not happen. And that's why we've got to, again, detach ourselves from that drug and that substance. And, we live in a world where they paint it like it's just so amazing and you're going to feel more sexier. Listen, you'll be your sexiest over here in this sober crew. That's where you'll be your sexiest, your most successful. You'll remember things too. I'm grateful. God allows me to remember a lot of my crazy episodes. And I'm like, I did do that. And then I'm grateful because I get to share it publicly. I'm like, let me tell y'all what I did. So just so I can help someone. So yeah, it's a blessing.
I love that.
I don't know if I'd prefer to remember things or if I'm grateful that I was a blackout queen. I don't know. I feel like it can go either way, right?
That's a good point.
I think that I prefer, what, as cringy as it would be, like Connie was saying, it's all a learning experience, right? You learn from your mistakes. But I think I'd rather, in hindsight, I'd rather know now from firsthand than what people tell me.
Yeah.
Because who knows if they're downplaying it or exaggerating.
Playing it up, yeah. Also, I think as I get more time between myself and the incidents, I'm okay knowing more information. Like the shame has kind of like the shitty smell of the shame has like evacuated the room. So I'm okay now being like, oh, okay, I did do that. But that's not me anymore. That was her, Yeah.
Right. That's not what, that's not who I am. That's what I did. That's what I always say too. But you're right. And then sometimes I might drop a little tear because I'm just like, wow, like you were really broken. You really had a lot of pain you were trying to mask. So, I think it's okay. I think it's important. We have to remember. But like you're saying, we're so far removed from it. That definitely helps. That helps a lot.
interesting that you say about celebrating the day that your mother died, because I lost my mother too when I was really young. And I think that was the source of a lot of my pain and why I drank, was to put off the grief of dealing with the loss. And only really in sobriety was I able to kind of slow time down to be able to kind of go back and take care of myself psychologically as that little girl, and then also grieve the loss of her. And now you're right. Like it does, I don't know if it seems like a happy day for me. I don't know if I'm in that space yet, but it definitely feels a lot lighter. And at this point in my life, she's been dead for longer than she's been alive for me. So there was like that half and half mark. So she's been dead for longer in my life than she was alive. So now that I'm on the other side of that, I'm able to kind of cherish the time that I did have versus mourn that she wasn't there, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think being sober helped you grieve in a more complete way, if there is a complete way?
Somewhat, because see, I grew up in a household. I remember we went to so many funerals, and I remember my mom was the oldest child, and she didn't cry a lot, so I kind of just remember, even at her funeral, I remember sitting in the front pew of the church and just remember her saying, "Don't be crying over my coffin." I didn't cry in that moment. I've cried since. I remember and I'm sure this might be something you've done. But I remember, with my book or just something I've celebrated, like, oh my God, I got to call my mother and have to see myself,
Totally.
So that definitely is an emotional moment for me. I had my grandmother for 1 year after my mom died. So that was comforting, but then she died and it was like, okay, Lord, I ain't got nobody.
Yeah. Like the pieces of her go away. That's harder too. Like I lost my aunt and my grandmother as well in the last couple of years. And it's like, all traces of her have kind of been erased, and it's so strange.
But I think too, I look just like my mother. So I keep her picture right above my bed. And, she's just the person that I just go to. I still talk to her and I'm like, I always want to make you proud. And this isn't, I'm doing this for you and, your siblings, because we also have to remember too, when it comes to sobriety, or rather alcohol abuse, we need to do our due diligence. Like, where does this come from? Right. I didn't know that. So on my mom's side of the family, it was a lot of substance use and abuse. And then on my dad's side, it's a lot of drug use. And so my dad still struggles with that. Now, so I'm like, okay, God, well, I'm glad I didn't have that on top of it. That could have just been insane. But, it's that keeps me going. Of course, God, ultimately, but that's what keeps me going, letting me know that, it's an assignment. It's an entrustment that God has given us. So I'm sure our parents are just very proud of us. They're looking at like, look at you.
Yeah.
I knew you.
Or they're like, finally. Yeah.
Right.
So when you made the decision to get sober, what did your recovery look like then? And what does it look like now?
Well, when I made the decision, I remember, it's in the book, but I remember first, before I even made the decision, I had been asking God to help me. I remember going past liquor stores, praying like, oh God, am I going to go in? And sometimes I did it and sometimes I did. And of course, the times that I did, I felt like, oh God, he's just not listening to me. He's just like, girl, go on with that story again. You always praying and asking and you're going to do what you wanted to. And then in my house, I believe that those prayers just led up. Like, I think if God had done it instantly, I don't think I would have received it the way that I should have received it. So in my house, I used to work in a bar. I don't know if you guys know that. I was a bartender. And so I got fired from that job. That's a whole different story. But I remember I used to put the glasses inside the freezer as we did at the bar. Got home, Long Island iced tea was my drink of choice. Took one sip and I started choking. And I'm like, well, I've never done that before. And then I said, well, maybe I just drank too fast. Did it again, took another sip, and almost choked to death again. I was not going.
Oh my God.
I was like, this is God. I know this is God. I started crying. And for me, it was just like, okay, thank you.
I hear you. Yeah. Please don't kill me.
I was praying. You heard me. You just did it and you heard me. And so in that moment, I was still, and I had the business when I was a bartender. When I got fired, I started cocktails with chocolate in 2012. That initially started as our bartending service with alcohol. So God was like, so God was like, now I need you to take the alcohol out that service. I'm like, now, Lord, ain't nobody gonna hire for juice. That's just not gonna happen. And does that. And this is 2012. And I remember, you always want confirmation from people. And I remember going to my sister, I'm like, you know what? I'm changing my whole business around and it's going to be non-alcoholic. And I'm just waiting for the cheerleaders. She was like, girl, you crazy. Nobody's going to buy from you. So she could, she actually co-signs what I said. And then I said, I can show you better than I could tell you. And that was, in that moment, I didn't have a recipe. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I want to say 2 days later, I got someone that called me, a childhood friend, and said, I'm getting married and I want you to do my wedding. And I don't want alcohol at my wedding.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Service.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, look at you, Lord. You really show up. Like, he was like, I don't have a budget. Whatever you charge is what, and I'm like 2 days before the event, I come up with these cocktails and I'm like, Lord, I hope they're good.
Yeah. In true bartender fashion, you finish your homework like right before the bell rings.
I think university school, so I knew I could, but it was juice. I'm just like, when I tell you, it was incredible and it just took off. So my decision to say yes to sobriety was scary. It was amazing. But that yes, and then having accountability of my business, because that's what it wind up being. It wind up being my accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Then being able to see my life now, it's growth. It's just like God has just been building. So it's been incredible. You say yes to one decision, that can have doors flying open. And it's not that you're even looking for the doors, because I wasn't looking for them, but they do actually come. And that's what your life is about. You're not supposed to stay in bondage, because that's what alcohol is. It's bondage. You're supposed to, evolve. And that's what we all deserve. Every queen deserves to evolve. Doesn't matter out of what. That's not, who cares out of what? But long as you're evolving, you'll be your greatest self. So yeah.
Do you think that your perspective changed once you got sober? Because I think the opportunities are always there. We just maybe aren't in the right mindset to see them.
My perspective changed a whole lot. Like I used to think that, drinking was everything and I was sexy and I was happy. And sobriety, I didn't even hang with people that didn't drink. Right. It was like, I wasn't a cool girl. It was just like, she doesn't drink, she may not be that much fun. So, we'll let her drive. we'll let her hold our backs.
Yeah.
She can hang with us, but don't expect too much from her. But, and then I also, when I was drinking secretly in my house, right? I remember being judgmental to people that were deeply in bondage. They were standing outside of the liquor store and, their parents looked, really bad. And I remember saying, oh, how do you get like that? Like, but meanwhile, girl, you was in your house doing things with God's grace that was, wasn't exposing you. But eventually it was coming to that place, One time, so this was my 40th birthday. My ex-husband and I were not together, but he was kind enough to get me a limousine. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah.
That's nice.
And I hope you don't think we're getting back together because it's over. But I was appreciative of this limousine. But that was the craziest night that I can remember. I was so drunk. Of course, I didn't remember. My girlfriend told me that you was a mess last night. And I was like, really? Like, what happened? Because I didn't know. She told me I pissed in a cup. And I'm like, what? Or how can I balance myself? That was my question. And she was like, no, I had to hold it underneath you. And I was like, you have a cup.
Oh, man.
In the end, like, we're never leaving each other. Like, that's a friend. Because I don't know if I would have done that for you.
Totally.
But that was insane. I mean, but sobriety it's still those stories that I get to tell. I get to share. Like, don't look at this queen today and think I ain't been through nothing. I have.
Yeah.
And you don't have to beat yourself up on the things that you've encountered, because we all have stories. Let's just high five them and think how we got through them.
Yeah. We call them hot mess hoedowns when we encourage people to write in their most embarrassing stories, because it makes you feel less alone. Like, I mean, Jess and I are peers as well. So we have a lot of people writing in that, like, pissed their bed as well and were feeling all the shame surrounding that, just to know, we all peed the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she said that,
Or a cup.
God.
Jess, what's our number one piece of advice when people are getting sober?
Therapy.
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 So much therapy that I'm going to school to be a giver of therapy.
This is true.
BetterHelp reached out to partner with us at the Social Squad to offer 10% off a monthly membership to BetterHelp.com.
What is BetterHelp.com?
BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that is for individuals, for couples. You take a short quiz, you get matched up with a mental health professional, and you, through the app, are able to video, or you can just message back and forth with a licensed professional to give you counseling and guidance on anything and everything that you're going through.
So how do our listeners use our code?
You just go to betterhelp.com/Seltzer Squad and you'll receive 10% off your first month.
So is that story in your book? Or is that a exclusive?
No, that story's not in the book.
That's an exclusive Seltzer Squad?
It's exclusive. No,
Okay, got it.
Exclusive. No, it's not in the book.
I love that.
I didn't think to write that in the book. I don't know. No,
Maybe your
that
next
was
book.
not-
The next book. Definitely.
So how did you end up deciding to write the book?
Oh my gosh. So one of my friends that I follow on Instagram, Think Like a Boss, absolutely love her. She's an Aries like I am. And I just met her in Jersey. And people had been saying, you should write a book, you should write a book. But again, like I said, I didn't know what path to start. And I met her. It was just her appearance, her energy. I was just like, something about this girl is amazing. And we just got to talk and I told her what I did. She was selling her book and she was like, you should write a book. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And of course, she gave me some guidance, the paths that I could start. Because again, on my head, I was just like, I didn't know which way to go. But she's like, do a guide. And I was like, that's pretty easy. Yeah, I could do a guide. But, people often ask me, so how did you come up with the name? I was like, I did not come up with the name. I didn't even come up with Sobriety, Queen Connie. I didn't even come up with that name. So saying two things at one time. But Sobriety Queen Connie, when I would go to Brooklyn to visit my family, my sister would say, put your bottles away. Here comes the Sobriety Queen. And I was like,
I like that. Yeah.
I'm taking it.
Not sure how she meant it, but either way.
She didn't even remember saying that. Recently, I told her last year, I said, you're the reason why I call myself Sobriety Queen Connie. She's like, what? And when I told her, she was like, for real? I was like, you was drinking. You didn't even know you said it, but you said it.
That's awesome.
So even the cover, the name, the subtitle, only thing I came up with was the 25 tips. I just was like, 25 is a good number. We'll go with that. But the title, the subtitle, I didn't come up with that. God gave me that. And I was like, okay, this is good. And it's been a blessing. The book has been around the world, we're still selling. And I wrote that book in 2018.
It's time for the next book.
It is. And God has said it. It's time for the next one. I'm like, okay, well, what am I writing? You gave me that, but could you give me some more information? I don't know what to write.
It'll come to you.
It'll come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Jeez.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
there's so much to cover. I feel like we could talk to you for like 4 hours.
know.
So, okay.
You
The
guys.
book, the podcast, the juice company. Well, tell us about your company.
tell us about Georgia and the juice.
So Georgia is where I live. It's very quiet, and I've always wanted quiet. I tried to buy a house 3 times in New Jersey, but again, that was me settling. And every time, the last time was the craziest. They accepted my offer, which was like, the house was like a little over 100,000, and it was a condo. It wasn't even a house. And at the last minute, they took a lower bid.
What?
Yeah, who does that? I was like,
You're like, take it then. Fine.
I was like, you know what? I'm over it. And so my friend suggested that I try a new build. And I'm like, a new build? Me? Literally. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Long story short, I did what she said, and God is blessed. It's me and my little dog. Hopefully you guys don't hear him. And if you do hear him in the background, maybe you can
Oh.
you're out of my house. But yeah, we live in a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and it's just
Oh
us.
my gosh.
So I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. But Georgia's amazing. As I said to you guys, I started fasting the beginning of this year because I just wanted to do what God had me to do. Doing some government contract work. It's just been incredible. But in my fasting time, I was like, this is the best time for me to transition Cut Toast with Chocolate into a name. Because I had no idea what I was going to name it. And my best friend gave me that name. She's like, call it the Sober Juice Bar. And I was like, girl, you're good. That's really good. And so because I've also been even more conscious of what I'm putting in my body. I eat fairly well as far as vegetables, but I wanted to juice more. So I incorporated cold press juicing into our. So all of our juices are named from people in the Bible. So we have Cain's carrot juice, Benjamin's beet juice, Bathsheba's beet and apple juice. Like, I love the Lord. So, it's just been incredible. So, we ship, and then we have celebration juices also. That one of our the only celebration juice we have, which isn't cold pressed, but I actually took it from Cocktails with Chocolate because it was a #1 seller, and that's called Sweet Jesus. I mean, people have been fighting over that juice. Like,
that's a great name too.
Back order.
It actually tastes really, really well. So, but it's kind of sweet. So that's why I said, well, let me incorporate some cold press. So this way, you're getting your nutrients and things like that. But it's a great pathway. I'm actually about to do some brand partnerships.
Amazing.
Nice.
Sales. So God has just been doing it. He's been doing it. When you step out of that comfort zone, I'm telling you, things open up. And leaving a job that, working for city government, security, quote unquote, not so much. I knew I never wanted to retire from city government. I always said that, my mom did. And I was like, you gave 20 what to what? And 20 years of your life. And then I found myself going down the same road. So I was like, okay, this is where it stops. After 14 years, I've worked in different agencies, but I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to look up 6 years later. And before I know it, it's going to be 20 years. And I know that I have so much more to give. I want to give. And then that limits me. When I get home from work, I can't really do the things that I want to do.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
tired.
accessible.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired. Exactly. And so being out here, it's been difficult because, again, I'm operating in a space and place that I'm not used to, but I know that growth is best in those challenging times, in those discomforting times. So I'm just grateful.
Do you have any Jersey moments where you lose your shit on people?
I don't. No. I have great affirmations.
Okay, good.
There you go.
One of them is, God, give me self-control. Give me self-control.
I like that. I need that one. Definitely.
I'm an Aries. So, I could, yeah. When you know yourself, you know yourself. So that's not a quality that I want to ever possess, is being out of control. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're at our rapid fire lightning round of the interview where we ask a series of questions that we ask everybody. Most of our squad is in early-ish sobriety, so a lot of these questions are geared towards resources and tools that helped you along the way. Do you have, I bet you're going to answer, tell us your favorite juice, and then if you have a favorite seltzer brand, but I feel like we should keep it on brand to your juice.
Yeah.
We should. Sweet Jesus is my #1. It is absolutely amazing. It's pineapple, orange juice, and grenadine. So that's yeah.
And where can we buy it?
You can go on my website, soberjuicebar.com, and you can get the large bottles and then the small bottles. That's what I sell for wholesale.
Okay,
so
amazing.
If you're having a wedding or something like that, or even if you're in the sobriety community and you want to start your own product line, we do private label as well.
Okay, cool. Love that. Okay. Next question is, how do you make friends in sobriety? It's our #1 question.
Oh, it's not hard. I like to talk, so it's not hard. It's not hard. And I like to give off what I give off is what I get back. So I smile a lot. I'm very friendly. So it's not hard. It's not hard for me. Thank God.
Yeah. I don't imagine it would be hard for you.
Yeah.
No.
At all. Okay. What are your top few resources or tools that you'd like to share with our squads? That can be websites, books, your services, anything that you want.
Well, first and foremost, I'd say your top source should be God. I would never not say it. Your prayer, meditation, you have got to have something higher than yourself. And then you can go onto the books, and then you can go onto, websites. Don't rely on yourself, because you don't know what you don't know. Having, a community is absolutely important too. Be it if you can get there physically or if you're just doing it via Zoom, because I know there's a lot of options. Put yourself in environments where people can love on you. Even if you can't love yourself the way that you want to be loved, put yourself in environments where people can do that for you until you can do it for yourself.
Okay.
Yes. reading some books. YouTube is a great service as well. But I would say community and definitely God. Know that he loves you no matter what you've done, where you've been. I'm a living witness.
We touched a little bit on how your life has gotten better. So I'm going to skip to the next one.
Is it the hot mess story? Is that
Yeah,
what
but
it
you
is?
kind of, if you have a hot mess,
I
Lolite,
know.
you kind of shared your limo story with us. But if you have another embarrassing story that you would feel comfortable sharing, it helps our squad feel less alone.
Yeah, there's so many. I got to think about what you want. that pissing on myself. Well, I pissed on myself. That definitely is a different story, but I can give it to you. So what kind of goes, I think after that night, so I guess I didn't piss enough in the cup. There still has to be some more to come out. So, I remember, you know how when you got to go to the bathroom and the closer you get to your home,
Yes.
it's going to hit your bladder, like it's pressing down on your bladder. And I remember, shaking, getting my key in the door of the building. My mom lived on the second floor. And I remember walking up the stairs, getting to the top of the stairs and just saying, oh, what the hell?
Letting it go.
Hold it any longer. And I just pissed all over myself. But that wasn't even the crazy thing. The crazy thing, I guess because my mom would never go to sleep until her children got home in the house.
Oh, no.
And so she must have felt it in her heart or something that I was in the hallway. And she came in the hall. Here I was on the floor, pissy drunk. Mind you, I had like some $800 shoes on, and I had some amazing, my attire. It was my 40th birthday, and she came in the hallway, and I know she was disappointed, but I know she probably said to herself, like, "What did I do?"
Oh,
Because having me be exposed to that, it was how I was masking my pain of, not being with the man that, I thought we would spend the rest of our lives with, being back at home for a short period of time. So I just remember that moment, and even waking up the next day, I couldn't even look at her. And I don't think we even said anything. We definitely didn't talk about it. We did not talk about it. So yeah, that was the crazy episode.
You had a wild 40th birthday.
Yeah, right.
I love that though. All right. Well, where can our squad find you? Tell us all the things that you sell and where everybody can buy all of them.
Well, I am on Instagram mostly, Sobriety Queen Connie. You guys can come on over there. I do try to go live a couple of times a week. Sometimes I don't.
You also have really great IGTV videos. They're so relaxing and soothing.
I appreciate that. And you guys, of course, can go on over to my website. It's ConnieSMcMillan.com. I've got digital products over there. You can also grab the book. And of course, come on over to the Sober Juice Bar. Get yourself some juice because you deserve to have that amazing time for yourself, relaxation, and just to be able to drink your juice and feel good in the inside. Also, what I've been doing probably for the rest of this month, those that do order my book, for one, use the promo code 2021, save $5. Two, if you order the book, I also drop some silk rose petals and some bath bombs inside of a little pouch.
Oh, wow.
So y'all come on over and order some so I can send you this amazing gift. And you can get
that's on your website?
The book is on my website, but I just throw that in there.
Okay, got it. Nice.
Since we're on Zoom, I might as well just show it to you really, really quick. You're here.
Yes.
You're here. So these are just the bath bombs. Of course, they don't get
cute. Yeah.
I love that.
But and these guys are on on my live. So yeah, I took like 2 of them out, and then I've got some silk rose petals, and I put them like in a little pouch inside the padded envelope that I have with the book. And yeah,
that is such a nice treat.
Something special to your walk. Of course, I personally sign every book as well. But I want you to know this is where your journey starts. You have so much to offer the world. So much.
Very well said. This was like the best way to start the day.
Right?
Your first interview. This is like such a up for us. Thank you so much for your time, Connie. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you. Continue to change the world with providing people with a platform to share their stories. So much success to you guys.
Guys, go find Connie online. Yes.
Because I know I want to try it.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Thank you, Connie. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Until we meet again, Jess.
Be nice to yourself.
And don't forget,
Hangovers suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.